As most of us are aware, Jamaica enjoys a long-standing, mutually beneficial relationship with Canada through several sectors, particularly evident in the banking sector. On that, I must welcome my friendly competitor, Bruce. Jamaica also receives a lot of assistance from the Canadian government. And this morning, I'd like to introduce Mr. Alistair Walbaum, who is the Political Economic Counselor at the Canadian High Commission, and invite him to bring some brief remarks.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the High Commissioner and on behalf of the Government of Canada, I would like to welcome the Grand Jamaica Homecoming movement as yet another way to cement the long and enduring relationship between Canada and Jamaica. As most of you are aware, there are well over 300,000 Canadians of Jamaican ancestry. While most of them do in fact live in Toronto, we have Jamaican Canadians across our country from British Columbia all the way to Newfoundland, and even some in more remote northern communities such as Iqaluit and Yellowknife. Similarly, Jamaicans in Canada work in almost every profession you can imagine, in business and commerce, legal and engineering professions, healthcare, medicine, of course, arts, culture, sports, even military and police. As Jamaica celebrates its 50th anniversary of independence next year, the Grand Jamaica Homecoming movement is a way that Jamaica can benefit from its citizens at large in Canada and around the world. But I think it's important to remember that the Grand Jamaica Homecoming serves as a strengthening factor in both directions, as individuals share expertise, resources, and interests between the country of their birth and their adopted country. In conclusion, I'd like to say that there is no doubt in my mind that 2012 is going to be an exciting year and a fantastic year for Jamaica, for Jamaican Canadians, and for the Grand Jamaica Homecoming movement. Thank you.
And in 2009, there was a historic address made by the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, made to the joint session of the Jamaica Parliament. And I invite us all to watch a very small clip of that message.
A great privilege. It is a privilege to be able to come here, to see the natural beauty of Jamaica, and to feel the vibrant spirit, the joie de vivre, as we say in Canada, of the Jamaican people. It is also a privilege to be the first Canadian Prime Minister to address a joint session of the Jamaican Parliament. This is a milestone in the rich history of Canada-Jamaica relations, and it is a symbol of the deep friendship between our two countries. This is a friendship forged through shared experience, a common language. Nous autres en avons deux. We have two languages, but we share a common language, a common legal system, and democratic institutions inherited from Great Britain. We share a trading relationship established in early colonial days. The peaceful path we both took to independence, our partnership in the global commonwealth of nations, and our shared devotion to diversity and pluralism, so eloquently expressed by your national motto, out of many, one people. A beautiful motto, by the way, and a true motto, entirely true, a little bit different from ours. One of our founding mottos is contained in our Constitution. It says that Canada was founded on the principles of peace, order, and good government. Canadians believe they usually only get 2 out of 3. Our two peoples also grow closer every year. Tens of thousands of Canadians rely on Jamaican warmth and hospitality for a break from our long winters. And some 300,000 people of Jamaican origin now call Canada home. They have enriched our lives in countless ways. Your world-famous musical and culinary traditions are now part of the fabric of Canadian life, celebrated in our big cities every year at Caribbean festivals. International Canadian athletes of Jamaican descent, such as Olympic gold medalist Donovan Bailey, have brought great honor to our country. Successful Jamaican-Canadian entrepreneurs like G. Raymond Chang and Michael Lee Chin have made enormous contributions to Canada, both economically and philanthropically.
As you will appreciate, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce will play a critical role in Grand Jamaica Homecoming in recognizing and capitalizing on the investment opportunities that will accrue from this venture. So I now invite the young Minister Tufton to bring some remarks.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so many very distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I will not bother to mention the names. My colleague, of course, Olivia Babsy Grange, and let me just say to the audience, she's buttering me up because we're now discussing the budget for homecoming. And I'm on to that, Babsy, but we work together. Let me just say that I'm happy to be here to share with you, even for a brief moment. I'm unfortunately not able to dine with you because of other commitments. This is indeed a very important occasion, and my own presence here, my colleague minister's presence, is an indication clearly, or hopefully, of the support and the endorsement of the government of Jamaica to Grand Jamaica Homecoming 2012. I want to recognize the key organizers, headed by, of course, Donna Chinloy and her critical team of support and other stakeholders, both here and in Canada, for putting this event together. The fact is, though, and I asked her earlier whether or not this was a Canadian event, because I was prepared to come and talk about remittances from Canada, 200 million, 325,000 tourists coming here, 17% of our tourism numbers, etc., etc. She says, listen, man, based on technology, this thing has just spread like wildfire all over the world. And I've always shared the view that Jamaica is not just the 2.7 or 3 million people who reside here. The nation state of Jamaica is approximately 5 million, or just over that, based on what the most recent census will say. And as a country, we need to plan our policy that includes or focuses on a nation state which extend well beyond our borders. And if we do that, I think we will be able to benefit not just those who reside here, but certainly those who reside elsewhere. And so it is a good thing that even though it started in Canada, done it, it is now global, and we are able to make it global. So I want to endorse the event. I want to commend you and the team for what has been done so far, and we look forward to next year. 2012 is going to be a significant year for Jamaica, Jamaicans, and those who support Jamaica. I am predicting, and I'm not Prophet Finn now, please, right? That next year we're going to be particularly proud as a country, not just because of 50 years after independence, but I expect us to do quite a few extraordinary things in London, at the Olympics, right, Babsy, Minister of Sports? And clearly, the celebration around homecoming will give us an opportunity again to put Jamaica on display. And Jamaica has so much to offer. Since taking on this ministry and spending some time to look at the investment climate, the investment possibilities, industry and commerce, I've concluded that these 50 years, which we will celebrate next year, we have done enough, I think, to expose our potential. Where we have fell short is the extent to which we have tapped into and exploited that potential. And my mandate, as I see it, supported by my colleagues and the stakeholders which comprises that nation state, is to focus on trying to help us as a country to move beyond discovery into realization of the potential and what that potential has to offer. And I think it's all possible. I think it's very possible. It's just a matter of how we plan, how we coordinate, and how we take advantage of those opportunities. And I know I'm not the guest speaker, but there are a couple of things that I just want to mention quickly. First of all, that 5 million number is significant. Not just because of the absolute numbers, but because of the reach, the influence that those numbers represent. I don't think there's a place in the world where Jamaica isn't known, where Jamaica doesn't generate some excitement, some mystique, some curiosity. And even when we are tempted to be deviants, we are exceptionally good at being deviants. And when we decide to do good, we are exceptionally good at doing good. And for me, that represents potential. The question is, how do we tap into that potential? The brand is strong for a number of reasons, and you all know why our brand is strong. And that to me represents, again, significant potential. How do we tap into that? We are a network society. Between sea, air, telecoms, infrastructure, Jamaica is very linked into the global economy. And the question is, are we doing enough to take advantage of that network that we have? And finally, we are comfortably positioned to so many potential markets, whether in the north or the south. And those markets have already expressed an interest in Jamaica and what Jamaica has to offer. Again, the question is, having discovered that, how do we exploit that? And so what I'd like to do in terms of my own role going into 2012 is to accept, to realize, and to speak to the fact that as a country, after 50 years, we have in fact discovered our potential, and to try, working with my colleagues and with a new and renewed mandate, with a young leader, right, Babsy? To encourage our stakeholder partners towards the exploitation of that potential that I think we know, we appreciate, and we have accepted exists. I think we need to address our bureaucracy as a case in point. I take the view that we have spent the last 10 years almost institutionalizing bureaucracy in our country as it relates to business and investment climate. In some instances, legitimately so, because of our need to stamp out corruption. You know, it's a sort of thinking out of the box approach, and I may get into trouble for saying it. But I believe that unfortunately, even as lawmakers, we have put so many layers of bureaucracy because of an assumption that investors are corrupt or trying to beat the system, rather than assuming that everybody is innocent and allowing the process to flow smoothly, and then instituting a strong audit function at the end of the process to determine whether or not there are deviants. I would like to see the next 50 years, certainly within the next 5, this country look at the investment climate, look at the process of facilitating investments, and if we have to abolish some of the laws to facilitate a speedier transaction time, which would be more efficient, and then audit transactions after the fact to ensure compliance, then it's something that I'm prepared to do, and I think the government is going to be prepared to do, because we are, in a sense, hindering the exploitation of that potential in a legitimate way, and I think that's something that we need to look at. I think we have to continue to promote and exploit our talent, but I think that in a sense we need to look at education and training not just as a laissez-faire or free market where persons have choice to just do whatever they want. I think as long as government subsidize education and training, government should reserve the right to look at the needs that are required in building out industry and channel some of those subsidies and resources into relevant areas of training and education. I think at the tertiary level, I know you're focused on the early childhood, the earlier stages of education. But I think even at the vocational and tertiary level, we're putting out graduates that are not necessarily aligned to some of the challenges that we face as a country. And I think it's something that we really have to be radical about and look at maybe adjusting as we move forward. We have to encourage the modernization of industry. And I understand the critical nature of the environment and the macroeconomic environment in supporting that, the cost of money as a case in point. But if we are to exploit that network society, tap into that 5 million and support others who are out there in terms of marketing Jamaica and brand Jamaica, we have to be efficient in doing that. And one of the things that we need to do, starting now and moving beyond 2012, is to support efficient and modern industries. And we have started some initiatives there. I think it's a priority that we must focus on. And finally, we must encourage innovation, creativity, because we are an innovative and creative people. And when we realize and we discover or we expose that innovation, we must protect it. I think we have shortchanged ourselves as a country. We have a strong brand. We have success stories that can be told, whether individual talent in terms of sports and music, or products in terms of our food. And we have not done sufficiently enough to protect that talent, that intellectual capacity, that creativity that we have discovered. So things like patents, copyright, geographical indication laws, the next 50 years, the next 5 years, the next 2 years, as a government promoting industry, promoting investment, we're going to have to do a lot more in terms of protecting our intellectual capacity as a people, because already we know we're talented. The question is, how do we exploit that critical talent to make Jamaica well? These are just some of the themes that I'm hoping, from my perspective, to highlight for Jamaica 2012. I think we are at a crossroads. The future is bright. I think sometimes we beat up on ourselves because we benchmark against countries that have been independent for hundreds of years. Our closest neighbor, America, for example. We compare ourselves. 50 years represents still a relatively young country, short time. There's a lot more that we could have done, but I think we have gone a long way in showing that we can be great, and we are great. The issue is, how do we move it forward? And Jamaica 2012, I think, is a critical starting point for us. So I commend you, I encourage you, and I identify fully with this event. Thank you very much.